Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the channel, Prison Talks with Jesse. I'm your host, Jesse, of course. Today we're going to continue on with our Academy stories. The last video we left off with how the first day had ended and starting into the second day. For this one, I'll chronicle as best I can remember the first week at the Academy. The first week was very much administrative-wise. We dealt with human resources. We filled out all of our paperwork for insurance and benefits and so forth. And we also had a visit from the union. All right. So getting into the third day, we had already gotten our room assignments at the barracks. We talked about how the inspections were going to go in the morning. We hadn't been issued our uniforms yet, so we were still wearing our civilian clothes. I was wearing blue jeans, polo shirt, polished boots. We would meet outside the building and we would form up in the parking lot. For those curious about forming up, picture a line of individuals in rows of 3, 4. I don't remember how many of us there actually were, but we would get there and wait for one of the instructors to come out and have us fall out, which means disperse, and go inside the building. From there, we would have various kinds of classes. I don't remember 100% what kind of classes were involved in the first week. I want to say on the third day, the first thing that we did, one of the admin clerks from, I'm guessing, the Huntsville unit, which is also affectionately known as the Walls unit, came over and started all of our paperwork for our benefits. I can tell you this, it was a very dull, very long, very boring week. Normally, when you hire on with a job, you do all your insurance benefits, your W-2 and everything by yourself with your employer, and you go on to work. Well, imagine doing this with approximately 80 or so individuals. There was a lot of sitting around time. But I was an employee. I was getting paid. I didn't care. If you want to pay me while I'm sitting around, great. The retirement system that they had, LECOS, L-E-C-O-S, Law Enforcement Correction Officer System, I believe it was. It was an acronym. I didn't need it simply because I had TRICARE benefits being a Coast Guard reservist. However, we were required to keep some kind of benefit package. You couldn't deny the benefits and say, I'm good, I got it. You couldn't do that. So they were going to collect some pay for some kind of insurance that you were required to have. Now, there were other kinds of packages that you could have as well. I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have any children. For the ones that did, they would have additional contributions that would cover family, dependents, so forth. There was another kind of insurance. I don't know what it's called, but let's say you're injured on the job and you can't work. This is the pay that would kick in and continue to pay you for a certain amount of time that you were on your affectionately called light duty for the time that you couldn't work. Now, there were jobs that corrections officers could do that were on light duty, aka the mailroom, but we'll get into that at another time. We had established all that, filled out everything, filled out all of our W-2 information, all that was collected up. The clerk took it. We had a couple of breaks, go get some water. The smokers could take a smoke break. You couldn't have your phone or any kind of tobacco product in the building itself. You had to leave all that in your vehicle. So you could go out to your car, check your phone, so forth and so forth. Later on during the day, the representatives from the union came in. I don't remember the name of the union. The one at one point that represented law enforcement officers was CLEAT. I'm not sure who represents TDCJ simply because I didn't join it. I thought it was poorly represented. The representatives that came in seemed simply geared toward us getting signed up, and the contributions would have been around $50 a month. Okay. $50 a month contribution to a union that's going to do essentially nothing for me. You can ligma. All right. It sounded like a scam right from the get go. They came in wearing suits, ties. They look like wolves in sheep's clothing, so to speak. It just smelled of collecting money. And I had asked a couple of questions. So we're on the job, and an inmate gets into an altercation with me. He's injured, and his family sues me. What kind of representation do I get from you guys? No kind of representation whatsoever, other than I would have to pay for my own defense, pay for my own attorney. I was like, and I didn't want to say it because I was brand new, but in my head I'm going, so what exactly would you say you guys do? Okay, and they talked about some of the benefits that they could give to us if we needed counseling because we had gone through an incident. In my mind, I'm going, wait a minute. Shouldn't the unit provide counseling through a chaplain for free? Yes, that is a thing. So what do I need to pay you guys for this? So needless to say, and any other kind of new corrections officer that's getting ready to hire on or is on, don't bother with representation through CLEAT. Not CLEAT. Oh, that was the law enforcement union. Whatever this union is representing corrections officers, don't even bother with it. It's a scam. They're there to collect your money. Yeah. By the fourth day, which was Thursday, we had been fitted for our uniforms. We all got in big lines, and they took our measurements, wrapped a tape measure around us, and measured out our inseam, leg lengths, arm, all that. The uniforms that we were going to get issued at the time, I've noticed that they look a lot different when I see videos now. They called them their Class A's. It was a gray, a long sleeve gray shirt, button down. It had, you'd call it a badge on the left side. It was a sewn on circle patch with the state of Texas insignia with the wreath. It had TDCJ on it. We didn't wear metal badges simply because it could be removed and used as a weapon, plus as a cost-saving effect for the state, it's a lot cheaper to manufacture a patch, sew it on the shirt, and you're done. They don't have to worry about it getting lost or stolen, yada yada. On the left sleeve, we had this TDCJ patch. It was shield-shaped. On the right sleeve, there was an American flag patch. The pants were gray trousers, and down the outside of the leg, there was, it wasn't so much black as much of like a burnt gray kind of color, a stripe that went down the leg. Belt loops, obviously. We got issued a black leather belt. It was basket weave style. So your typical belts, there's plain leather, there's the high gloss that looks like it's always polished kind of leather, and then basket weave is the one that has the rough look to it. Put 2 fingers over 2 fingers, repeat the process. That's your basket weave kind of style. It actually looked really decent. I did like the belt. Undershirts, socks, boots, that was on us. Those weren't issued at all. As far as undershirts, you could wear black. Oh, I don't remember all the colors. I know that you could not wear a white undershirt. Inmates wore white. Corrections officers could, except for your underwear, corrections officers could not wear white t-shirts, and we couldn't wear white socks. When you went through pat down, if you had either one of those 2 garments on, you were supposed to be turned away. I'll get into situations as far as why in later videos for that. So like I say, the undergarments were on us. We were issued 4 shirts. They were all long sleeve. You could have them altered to short sleeve once you got on the unit. There was an unwritten rule. You were supposed to wait at least a year before you had any of your shirts altered to short sleeve. If you did that within your 1 year time, then you could get a bad rap. Also, you essentially wanted the long sleeves because it was there to protect you from any kind of fluids or any kind of nastiness that would go on in the prison. 4 shirts, 4 trousers, 1 belt. We got this big poofy green jacket. I remember Sergeant Hatcher, he called it the squirrel skin jacket. It looked warm. All right, it was big, thick, poofy. I don't even know what you would call it. I'm picturing it in my head, but it was kind of like wearing a comforter. Like take a comforter and make a jacket out of it. It was kind of like wearing that. The problem was, it wasn't warm at all. It was big. It was poofy, but it wasn't really lined with anything designed to keep you warm. And when the wind would blow, it would just slice right through that thing. You could wear another kind of jacket, but that was the only one that the state was going to issue you for free. Oh, and like I say, it was green. God, it looked ugly. And they had just started, I say just started. They had recently made the transition to the polo shirts where you could, so there were 2 kinds of trousers, the gray dress slacks that we wore, and there were gray BDU pants. BDU meaning the military style. They have the cargo pockets on the side, the pockets on the ass that have the flaps that button, basically 6 pocket trousers. You could get those issued to you later on at the unit, or of course you could go over to the prison museum and you could buy them. And the blue polo shirt that had become really popular, I think they called it the Class B uniform. You had to get those once you got to your actual unit. I personally never wore the BDU pants. I never wore the polo shirts because when it came time for the unit to issue them, if you weren't at the unit by around 3 a.m. that morning, no bullshit, they were going to be out by the time you showed up. So I tried a couple of times, could never get one issued to me, so I just wore the Class A's and had eventually had all the shirts converted to short sleeve. So we were fitted for our uniforms. Let's see. During the midday, we would have classes. We got issued a book, and I've had a lot of questions on my other channel, Jesse's Occupational Awareness Show, with people asking about exams. Those questions have been answered. Comments have been posted and answered about those. If anyone's curious, check that out. Exams are not to be worried about. So we were issued this big, thick book. It had a red cover on it, and it had all the different subjects that we were going to cover. And it was a fill-in-the-blank style book. So as we went through the class, the instructor would teach from the PowerPoint. We would fill in the information on the book, go back, I say home, go back to our berthing area, study up, and we were given a little bit of front-loaded information for the class that we could expect the next day, and we could read up on that as best you could in a book with fill-in-the-blanks from there. We were also photographed and issued our state ID cards. It went in a little protective sleeve, and it had this little clamp on it that you could pin to your shirt like you see any kind of typical government agent in any kind of movie wear. We would wear that dangled from our collar. Okay. That also served to allow us to get in the Walls unit, which was right across the street from that abandoned barracks building that we were living in there at Sam Houston. That was what would let us get in there so we could have dinner during the evening time. I never went for breakfast. It was too early in the morning. We couldn't do lunch there because we were in class, But by the time dinner was getting ready to be served, we were already out of the building, and I would usually go over there for dinner every evening. I'll get into that later on. It was free. Best thing I can say for that. So in the afternoon time, we would switch over into our physical training attire. We wore a black shirt, black pair of sweatpants, gym shoes, and we would do calisthenics, push-ups, sit-ups, jumping jacks, also known as side straddle hops, flutter kicks, lay on your back, take both your hands, put them up under your ass, lift your legs up 6 inches, hold that in place, and start kicking your legs. That's flutter kicks. The other one, I don't remember, scissor kicks. Instead of kicking your legs up and down, we would open our legs out wide to the side and bring them back together, like opening and closing scissors. And then the other one, leg lifts, both your legs, lift them up, and then bring them back down, hold for 6 inches, wait for it, lift them up again. Those are our exercises. We would also get into brief defensive tactics. Front block with left arm, right arm, front jab, front hook, snap kicks. Out back behind where the log cabin was, that was the basketball court. Pause. Continue. We had the basketball court, and that's where we'd all get in big lines and do the workout on command. It was fun. I did enjoy it. It's kind of one of those, you're like, oh, why are they actually teaching me this? I know all this stuff, that stuff. It doesn't matter what kind of a defensive tactic background that you come from. The state is required to teach certain moves and tactics. That way later on, when a CO gets into a use of force, if you use something that was not taught by the state, you could be held liable for it. Likewise, if the individual got a beat down and tried to sue, the state could counter it with, this individual was taught specific defensive tactics. They should have known how to protect themselves. So it was essentially not so much for our good, it was a way for the state to cover themselves, as I would find out way later on in different uses of forces that I had been involved in. By Friday, we were getting ready for the weekend. We had been introduced to Sergeant Battles, which I'm understanding now is Lieutenant Battles. Congratulations. I took an instant liking to this individual. He had been with the agency. When you look at the long sleeve shirts, they'll have a yellow stripe on the left sleeve. Each stripe is 5 years worth of service. They call it the French fries. That's an affectionate term. He had, I believe at the time, 5 service stripes, which, if you do the math, 25 years. Could have been for 29 at that point, waiting for his next one. Okay. Grizzled veteran. He gave us our class that day on, we had a brief introduction on offender manipulation and the games that they could play and some of the things that we could expect for the next week. We were told over the weekend, by Monday morning, we needed to have memorized the TDCJ mission statement. It was a 4-sentence paragraph. I don't remember it. Sorry, I'm not an active CO anymore, so I don't have to know it. But basically, every morning in formation, the instructor would come out, "Let me hear it." That's what he would yell out. And we would have to recite the TDCJ mission statement. I remember one sentence of it was to provide for public safety, and I don't remember the rest of it. So we ran through that a couple of times. We recited it a few times. And at that point, it was a lot of sitting around. It was a sunny day. We were waiting. We were still in civilian clothing. We had been told our uniforms had been processed, and by Monday, we would have our uniforms issued. They couldn't let us go early because we were required to have so many logged hours with the academy. I want to say it was around 680, 5-week program. By the end of Friday, the weekend was ours. You could go do what you want. I got in my car, went home, stayed home for the weekend. She wasn't my wife at the time. Girlfriend come over, stayed the weekend with me. We did what we do, and woke up Monday morning, got back on the road bright and early, headed back to the academy. That started up our week 2. I'm going to go ahead and end this video so it's not too terribly long. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. Hope everything's going good your way. And I'll see you in the next video. Take care.